The longer it takes you to read something, the more memory and the more attention it's going to require. We've got kids who, on the struggling side, hesitant, mispronounce, it takes them so long to read a passage, they can't even remember what the heck they read after a sentence, much less the passage.
We're talking about processing this code at a pretty good clip, faster than we can think about, unconscious, all automatic, and on average, so many milliseconds per letter into sound, or the thing doesn't work.
That's right. It's all happening very fast at an unconscious level. I suspect that most letters that are in your sort of foveal zone, or the area right around your fixation, are probably being processed pretty much in parallel, so I don't think we need to think of them as, you know, one 25 milliseconds, another 25 milliseconds, but averaged over them, it's going to be about 25 milliseconds, Very fast, staggeringly fast.
The problem with automatization is that at any step, if you've got a slowdown step, if any piece of that enterprise has a block, or you can't hold enough of the information, the whole house of cards falls apart.
So the building blocks are that there's a distinction, an ability to recognize differences in sound, in time. That's important to be able to, in the technology world, they call it the analog to digital converter, right? Where we're slicing the analog stream into chunks. So if they're not doing that fast enough, then they don't have the granularity of distinction necessary. Then on the other side of that, once they have that, there's a frequency or speed of processing that's necessary to assemble inside the mind to create the virtually heard stream in the reading process. And any one of these things can cause a bog in processing that causes the stutter that breaks down reading.
Right. I think, hope we can put your words in there. That sounded perfect.
You wouldn't have to have much of a fault in this machine operating with high speed and this incredible processing efficiency that's required to begin to see somebody be a little slower at it or a lot slower at it.
Yes, and in addition to the underlying sound processing issues we talked about earlier, wouldn't the trouble also be related to the confusion and correspondence between letters and sounds? In that the more time it takes the brain to resolve the ambiguity, the greater the stress on the system to produce the experience of reading.
Make the representation of those sound parts of words a little fuzzy. And now I'm going to slow down the ability. And also, as soon as you do that, I might say you also have a decline in processing efficiency, the ability to hear something and rapidly translate, do anything with it.
Doesn't the same exact argument apply to the fuzziness between letters and sounds?
Absolutely it does.
That's my point.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a technological artifact, not a naturally occurring soundscape variation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it is in a sense a technological artifact, absolutely.
Apart from the distinction and processing frequency issues that we're talking about relative to oral language processing, that when we talk about reading, we're talking about something else, which is how all that works in relation to this code.
That's right.
Because on the one hand, we've got these distinct elements, which are required. But on the other hand, before we get to wherever we're going, we've got to assemble them.
That's right, back together.
They have to go back together in some way, in which if there's ambiguity in the distinctions, it has to be processed through in the assembly. So the more that there's ambiguity in between that, the more there's time consumed in working it out.
Truth is that reading is one of the more complicated of the higher cognitive functions, using attention and rate of processing and sequencing and memory and the linguistic systems and the visual system, and it having to coordinate this dance that's going on. And the more complicated the translation from the orthography to the phonology is in a particular language, the more complicated this processing dance has to be within the brain.
C, K, S, Ch, Sh, O, Ow, Ah, Wa, U, M, P, P, A, E, A, R, R, I, E, S, Sh, Z, O, Ow, Ah, Wa, U, N,
Yes, the capacity that goes into this print level work is far too great to give room for comprehension, for relating new to known. There's no doubt about it.